Happy MAGA Day, Jim.
Same to you, Dale.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome back to you too. Yes, that is right. We are live on Inauguration Day.
If we talk to ourselves today.
Yeah, that's right. I know most people are going to be watching the inauguration. A lot of you might have been tuning in for our interview with Sarah Adams today. We hope she arrives here today, folks. So again, we were scheduled. It was good to go. And thus far, there might be some scheduling conflicts. And of course, today's inauguration day. And most people are paying attention to all of that, as we are here at the Two Guys, One Coup show. So we're going to talk about that. If Sarah comes on, we'll bring her on. We'll get into that interview. If not, we'll go over the news of the day. And it's a big day, a day we've been waiting for a very, very long time.
She popped on.
Sarah is here. We're going to get through that. I'm glad she joined us. Hold tight, Sarah. We're going to get right with you. So we'll have her plus some inauguration news plus a top five at the end of the show that I think you all are going to like. Jim, all that on what, my friend?
It would be live from the Patriots Prayer Network studios. It is Two Guys, One Coup.
Be right back. Folks, welcome again. We're going to waste no time. We're going to bring Sarah on. She's was an intelligence analyst and targeter with the CIA. She also served as a senior advisor to U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee on Benghazi and was co-author of the Benghazi Committee report, proposed report of the Select Committee on the events surrounding the 2012 terrorist attack in Benghazi. She did that back in July of 2016. In addition, she also led the Department of Defense research and development efforts to discover, incubate, and deliver innovative data-driven, technology-enabled solutions to answer complex national security challenges. You've seen her on Sean Ryan's show. You've seen her all over the podcast circuit. You know who she is. It is Sarah Adams. Jim, can you bring her up for me?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, please do. We are speaking to royalty. How are you, Sarah?
Gosh, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. I don't know where you're located. I don't know if this is early for you or not. But either way, we're very happy that you joined our show. Man, I'm telling you, we've been waiting a long time for this because obviously we've seen your interviews. We know about the fears that we should all have in this nation currently that aren't being really addressed, being spoken by you, but not really being addressed by anybody in the media or anybody else out there. It's taking shows like Sean Ryan's and all that to bring it to the forefront. I want to start right away, if you don't mind. How did you become a CIA targeter? How did you get involved in that? And then we can get into all the troubles that might be coming our way, regardless of the celebration today that we are now having President as 47th president. So
yeah, it's a very busy day.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us the background and how you got involved in that.
Yeah, I just applied online for the CIA. It wasn't anything exciting, but there at the time they weren't hiring targeters, right? It
Okay.
wasn't a job posted. So
Mhm.
I learned about targeting within my first few weeks, and I told my boss, right, that's what I want to do. And
Yeah.
he put me in to be a targeter. And so I was luckily a targeter from the beginning, and didn't do, I think they hired me as something like a political analyst.
Yeah.
So, which is funny, right? Because I don't like
Yeah, I know.
so, yeah, so it actually just worked out. I came in at the right time. I had the right boss, and
Mhm.
he guided me down the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. Explain to our viewers who don't know, like what a targeter, what is the job and title?
Yeah, I mean, the point of it is at the CIA they had analysts, right? And the
Mhm, mhm,
analyst job was just to answer questions with the policymaker, right? Like, what are we seeing? What's going on? And then
mhm,
there's case officers who are in the field collecting intelligence, but there wasn't someone in the middle bridging the gap to help support the operational side, which the case
mhm,
officers do. And
mhm.
so the position kind of came up when they started just kind of hunting terrorists, right? And they were
Yeah.
doing it ad hoc, grabbing bodies from all over the CIA, and they almost like made a profession and then they formalized it. And so,
Mhm.
really, a lot of it is capture, detain, but then it's also identify, right? Like, if the US government's missing information or missing intelligence, like who do you target,
Mhm.
right, to go collect that information from?
Yeah. Wow. Um, I'm telling you, in hearing all of this and the involvement in Benghazi, we can, I guess we can go into that real quick. Um, what tell us about that scenario and about that day and kind of the surrounding and your involvement in it that day. I think
Yeah,
people want to hear that.
it starts a little back. So it was
Mhm,
January of 2012 where I got less than a week notice and they're like, "Hey, can you go to Libya? We don't really have approvals to do capture operations. A lot of terrorists are coming in. Like, we want you on the ground to get things rolling."
mhm,
So I first went to Libya actually in January. And then, of course, Benghazi was in September. So I first spent time in the capital of Tripoli. And then I went to Benghazi come August.
mhm.
Yeah, the morning of the attacks, I actually traveled up to Europe to discuss the terrorists in Benghazi. And then that night they attacked. And then the
Wow.
next day I came back to Libya. But of course, I couldn't go to Benghazi. So I went to Tripoli and I stayed there till the end of that year,
Yeah.
hunting down, who attacked us and those type of things.
Mhm. To not be either generalize anything or to be it's not a sexist thing, but a blonde-haired, kind of bluish green-eyed woman in Libya probably stands out, like in those areas. Is there concern? It's just a weird question for me, but is there concern, or was there concern on your end about being targeted yourself and the safety of yourself over there?
Well, in multiple locations, you have to just worry about being targeted because you're American, right? So, like
Correct.
more extremist areas. So, like when I was in Tripoli, I
Mhm.
didn't really have what I felt was a problem. Tripoli was very like Mediterranean culture, kind of felt
Sure.
like Southern Europe. And also the people of Tripoli were very like were fans of Americans because they felt like we supported the revolution. So if
Mhm.
they thought you were American, like if you're at a checkpoint, they'd stop every car and like let the American through. It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
different
Neat.
environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Benghazi was a lot more the extremists were coming in, so you did have
Mhm.
to be a little more careful. But I lived in places like Peshawar. I've been to Quetta in Pakistan, so I've been to extremist places. So
Mhm.
I have a different risk level than normal people would have, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I am a I guess a rookie, or not a rookie, but a non-professional. What would we call those? um,
Yeah.
anyway, I follow Benghazi a lot. Read the books. Your book is on the way. When I ordered I was hoping it would be here over the weekend so I could read it before the interview. But I was follow a lot of it. The movie's the movie, right? But what do you take from Benghazi about what we've seen from the people who were there? The book, 13 hours. Um, Fact and fiction, or I guess I don't want to say fact and fiction because I guess it can be um, interpreted differently. But what is the one takeaway that you want us all to know about Benghazi that maybe we don't know?
Well, I think first you're describing things and it's not really in the most accurate way. So
Mhm.
So there's 3 books, right? So there's 13 Hours, which is the first-hand view of the GRS team the night of the attacks, and that is
Mhm.
factual from what they went through that night. Then there is the one Under Fire, right? The
Mhm.
State Department's first-hand version of what happened that night. And then our book luckily got to spend, we spent 9 years on it, and we investigated the actual terrorists who committed the attack. So then we got to add a lot more context, as you can imagine, to the timelines of both books. So
Mhm.
everything was accurate at the time it was done. But of course, as you can imagine, in hindsight, you learn a lot more. And
Yeah.
really, the only inaccuracies in either of those books, I'd say, is they did not know some of the people they were interacting with that night, right? Like when
Mhm.
fighters joined them, or even when they got evacuated at the end, from the CIA annex, they didn't know those were Gaddafi loyalists, right? So those are the type of things you don't always know in real time,
Mhm.
who's involved, especially in Benghazi. If you go through our book, we mention 50 different groups just in Benghazi are in our
Jeez.
book. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to understand the climate there. There was a lot of moving parts, and
Mhm.
people who never served there have no understanding what that is like. And we live there. Even when people came in to support us and stuff, they did not know the city of Benghazi, and that's why we had issues too, where they called the bad guys, because it's a very fluid situation, unfortunately. And this is why being on the ground and knowing, who you're interacting with is so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that you make a good point, because that's one of the things you have to wait and read about, because that's what I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to. I've read both versions, okay, and I know the State Department's is a little bit different from what the guys who are actually on the ground, but there's just something about, I will not look at something and say individuals were there. I mean, for what these men did. Okay, let's just not take that away. The bravery that
Mhm.
they showed to go and defend Americans, right? They did that. So I will never take away from that. But there was something going around on X, and I told Dale last week that
Mhm.
I didn't see exactly where the beginning started, but I saw
Yeah.
where you had commented on Pronto's and
Mhm.
Tiggs, about this is what happened in this.
Mhm.
Can you share, if you can't, that's fine, but can you share what started all that and kind of take us
Sure.
back? Because I could not find the beginning of it.
Yeah. So what happened in November? My co-author's Dave Boone Benton, right? In
Mhm.
November, he got calls from some friends in Orlando, and they said, "Hey, there's this podcast called Anti-Hero. They're going to throw Benghazi under the bus."
Ah.
And he was like, "What is there to throw under the bus? We've been honest since day one. I mean, we're
Mhm.
known to be the most honest, right? I
Correct.
mean, I was the first person who reported on what was going on. Like, I actually filed an inspector general complaint in November 2012. All these
Yeah.
numbers go together. So
Yeah.
we've always been honest. So he thought, this is strange. And so he reached out through friends to this podcast. He tried in November, he tried in
Mhm.
December, and they laughed about it and didn't get back to him. So then they
Wow.
started making these teaser videos. And apparently they interviewed, so one of the two Department of Defense individuals who came on Team Tripoli, they
Mhm.
interviewed him. He seems to be upset how he was portrayed in the movie. Remember, the movie was just an adaptation of 13 Hours.
Correct.
No one had control. Even I don't really like the movie because Bub is 3 characters in the movie. A lot of people don't understand that he's Bub,
Mhm.
that I know.
Mhm.
He is actually the team lead for GRS in Tripoli, and
Mhm.
he's another position for Tripoli, which was called like a special operations officer. So he represents another man
Yeah. Yeah.
in the story. So you know what I mean? They lump all these characters together. They put Bub and Roan together in situations they weren't that night because you
Mhm.
wanted to have the bond of their friendship, right?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
no one's ever said the movie is real. Well, this podcasters were saying, oh, the movie was a documentary. The DOD is upset
Really?
by it. It's very strange. So they're
Yeah.
starting some whole drama for no reason. And actually, it's a really bad time to do it because some of our 2012 Benghazi attackers are currently planning attacks here in the U.S. homeland,
Yes.
and they're wasting time trying to divide people who've always been united. We've never had issues within Benghazi among the rescue teams.
Correct.
It's very strange, and so we all find it very offensive. And then they started saying they reached out to me and I didn't get back to him. First, I blocked them when Boone gave me their 3 names because I was like, I'm not playing with these fools. But then they started saying, oh, they reached out to me and were so polite and I didn't get back to them. If you wrote me a DM, I have like 10,000 DMs. I don't check them. Sorry. So anyway, they're playing games and being dishonest. So what happened, though, is a lot of people wrote me and said, hey, can you explain the negotiations for the ambassador's body, which didn't happen? So I said, it's from our book, but it's never been argued. So the ambassador got brought to the Benghazi Medical Center, right? So there was so they sent a Libyan to identify him that knew him, and then he brought the body. So there was no negotiations because he wasn't with hostile forces. So apparently that's something that's going to be discussed on the podcast when it gets released. Again, 3 podcasters who weren't in Benghazi have started all these rumors. None of us even know what the Department of Defense people have said, right? Correct. So they're causing issues with nothing on the table and causing drama. And then they keep walking back their own drama. I mean, I find it to be just completely foolish.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I want to go back.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah,
like I said, I tried to go back and look at it.
We were talking, and I'm like, man, what is happening on this? So who are these?
And we don't know either. We all find it ridiculous.
Yeah, of course. Going back to something you said in the middle of all that was Benghazi attackers are planning attacks here as we speak. I want to get into a lot of that because I think that's really where we're at this point, and what should be taken seriously. We will get into suicide vests, TSA and all that, because that's really that. I just got back from a flight. We all fly everywhere. To me, TSA is basically a lazy government organization, ran organization that I don't trust in general. Let's get into that. What is the evidence that they are planning attacks? And the type of attacks that you think might be coming on our homeland, again, even with an America First strong president, can it be stopped? How can it be stopped? Let's start with all of that.
Yeah. So Al-Qaeda started planning these attacks before, there really was an election cycle, right? They didn't know Trump was going to win. They didn't know Kamala was going to be running, all those type of things. So we have to keep that in mind. There's not really decisions being made on Trump. Now, when Trump was elected, they're obviously having discussions, right, on how they can undermine, because actually Al-Qaeda didn't want Trump to win, right? So they will make other decisions based on him being president now, of course, and we have to see how that plays out. Yes. But how they plan their attack is they planned an attack for 2025. Could they shift it? Of course, but that was their intent. And the attack is supposed to be basically, I'd say revenge. I don't really like the word. It's kind of like in honor of Osama bin Laden. And then it's also in honor of kind of like the last 20 years of terrorist attacks under the umbrella of their partnerships, right? So I'm talking like the London bombings, back on July 7th, right? 20 years ago. I'm talking the Mumbai attacks. I'm talking about the failed airliner plot, why we got to bring the liquids, failed underwear bomber, failed shoe bomber, right? So they want to put together an attack that honors all of this, right? So it's really interesting. So there's multiple phases, and we don't know all of them, as you can imagine. So some touch on those. So there's going to be reportedly some sort of swarming attacks like Mumbai, right? In honor of it. There's supposed to be something to do with public transportation in honor of, July 7th in London. There's supposed to be airline pieces of this because of all the failed airline plots, right? Correct. So there's all these pieces, and we don't know every piece and what they're honoring, but they have said they trained 1,000 attackers and sent him. Everyone argues with me about that. I'm like, that's Al-Qaeda's number, right? I'm not pulling the number like out of my butt. And Hamas had 1,400 attackers. So for people to act like 1,000 doesn't make sense with the way they can train and deploy. I mean, I don't know if you know, but they sent almost 10,000 attackers to Syria for the Blitzkrieg in November. I mean, people don't understand. These are like real numbers, right? That means produce that many in terrorist camps right now, because the ones sent to Syria were new recruits, new trainees. They sent them there like the battleground. I mean, like that, you go and prove yourself, right?
Correct.
Um,
Correct.
So we need to keep in mind that they're moving fast, and there's over 50 terrorist camps in Afghanistan. They're not all Al-Qaeda, but a lot of them are enemies.
Yes. All right. So when we talk about Al-Qaeda and Taliban and all, it's hard for people to kind of just, I can't separate this one from this one. Are they all somehow coordinated together? I know there are, obviously there's going to be a dominant one that wants to be a dominant force and all that, but do they coordinate all this together?
So in the past, a lot of them were pretty distinctive, right? The Sunni and Shia were pretty separate. Al-Qaeda and ISIS didn't really get along, as you can imagine. And then there was pieces of time Taliban and ISIS didn't get along. So those are the historic arguments people make, but they have evolved now, and the evolution has come because they want to bring in, what is it now, the sixth caliphate, right?
Yes.
They want to bring back the caliphate. Well, to bring back the caliphate, you have to unite, right? There's no other way. So Osama bin Laden's son, the last few years, has been his goal. Like, we're going to bring in groups. So that's why they helped on the Hamas attacks, for example, right?
Yes.
Again, not always a natural ally. And they have now made a number of agreements with ISIS, right? I mean, they're almost like business compromises, right? You're running these big firms. Like, what do you want? What do I want? So like some of the deals they're making with ISIS, like one's really interesting, right? So they made this deal before Syria fell, assuming it would fall, but they gave ISIS a promise. There's these two really big camps in Syria, we always hear about it. The ISIS women and children are kept, right? Like, that famous British girls there. We got an American there, etc. They have promised, there's maybe, I don't even know what it is, like over 20,000 people. They promised to resettle those women and children in Afghanistan for their safety when they get out of that camp. So they're actually building homes, and they'll have like a security net. They'll get welfare, etc. So this is a deal Al-Qaeda made with ISIS. So ISIS will support their homeland attack, and then things are doing in Europe. So they're making deals that we aren't even aware of, and our intelligence community, as you can imagine, they're still set in the assessment they knew 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Wow.
And they're not seeing this evolution.
Have we
Jim,
lost focus? And I want to be careful. I don't want to make it political, but sometimes we have to, if you know what I mean, depending on who the administration is. Have we lost focus? Because here's what my concern is. Have we lost focus of what's going on? Maybe our CIA is not as deep as what we need it, not as involved as what we need it, to see what's going on with the border. Okay, so this is kind of a two-part question. Are we focused on what the problem at hand is, of people who hate us, that want to hurt us? And the other thing is, how much involvement does the CIA have once they start coming into our border? Do you guys talk to the FBI to say, hey guys, I want to let you know this group is here?
Sure. For the first part of your discussion is, there is this assessment across the intelligence community, not just in the CIA, that they've put too many resources into counterterrorism, and it's why they fell behind on China. It's like, no, you fell behind on China because you didn't have a good plan against China. And because in the United States, you can't utilize business and private business the way China can. So it's very difficult the way our country is set up, in the democracy we are, to go against someone like China, because they're very different systems, right? But anyway, so as you can imagine, that's the prevailing assessment, right? So we didn't just lose a bunch of collection in Afghanistan. Remember, the CENTCOM journal said it was 98 to 99%. We pulled back on terrorism collection in a lot of places, and we're pretty much only focused pretty much on like ISIS in Syria, for example. So, and then everything shifted to Russia, China, etc. So we have lost collection in a lot of these places, and the collection isn't prioritized. So if you don't collect the information, you don't have it, if that makes sense. So we have that problem. Now, your last question about the border, if you're not collecting on, let's say, foreign fighter movements, right, from Afghanistan, or it doesn't even matter, we're in North Africa. You don't have that information to provide to the border to say these people are coming in the country. I learned this. So when I was in Libya after Gaddafi fell, nothing existed. There wasn't a border patrol. So all these terrorists are coming in, and we would give it to the Libyan government. Like, Sarah, we don't even have a system to run passports yet. Like we don't, our police services don't even have guns yet, right? So we're kind of at this situation. We are giving nothing to the Border Patrol on these people because we're not even collecting the info. So now in a real scenario, if it was 15 years ago, and we were really in the counterterrorism fight, we would, as you can imagine, give that information to people on the border and support their operation in some way. But of course, when someone comes to the United States, that becomes FBI, HSI, whomever. It's no longer a CIA operation. The CIA does not do authorities on U.S. soil. That would be law enforcement with arrest authorities.
Now we hear rumors that you guys don't get along. Is that true? I mean, please tell me that it's not true. I mean, this.
Well, so everything, as you can imagine, is personality based. And the thing is, things were set up right in the U.S. and then they changed a lot. So after 9/11, they made big organizations. They broke up how things are done. You're hearing in this argument right now. So the federal air marshals are saying, hey, when this whole reorg happened, you took away our intel shop, and we haven't had one since 2003. That's a valid argument, right?
Yes.
Another thing I complain about is diplomatic security. The famous Fred Burton used to run like the operations overseas, like if an embassy is attacked, and they were very good. That got moved to FBI, who, in my opinion, has not done the job good. I'm not putting them down. They have their role. This wasn't it. They don't have their relationships overseas because they're a U.S.-based law enforcement agency. So all these reorgs after 9/11 should have made us safer and should have made the organizations work better. And they actually didn't, right? And they actually diffused and made the intelligence community too big. And I think that's one of the big problems we're having. So it's not exactly then that people don't work together. It's like they almost made systems that don't flow that well together.
Correct. Almost like on purpose or by design, it was made to not be able to communicate or operate well together. Like Department of Homeland Security. I mean, there was none of that before 9/11. There was, you're right. So we've added. That makes perfect sense. I want to go back to, we've always thought that a way for terrorists to make a point in this country, a strong point, would be to have coordinated nationwide attacks, like you're kind of speaking of. We always thought, well, one way to do that would be to have coordinated attacks, unfortunately, on schools or those kind of, that would, I mean, nothing would hit home more than that, right? When you're talking about coordinated attacks and the way that might happen, you do mention the suicide vests, which we don't see that in this country, right? I mean, there's nobody going into buildings and, blowing themselves up or any of that, or where have you. How do you feel that is a way for them to succeed here? And how do we combat that?
Yeah. There's been a lot of confusion over this, so I'd like to walk through super quick. So
Please.
there is something called there is something called the invisible bomb, right? It's a goal Al-Qaeda had since the 90s. We saw it, I think one of the first times it really went to play is the bomb maker. His name is Ibrahim al-Siri. He was from Al-Qaeda's Yemen branch. He actually made it, basically put it on his own brother, and he was going to kill the intel head in Saudi Arabia, who was one of the princes. Okay. It unfortunately didn't work well and really only killed his brother. Now then we saw it, of course, in the underwear bomber, the shoe bomber, etc. We brought up last year, they put out a video on how to make a homemade version. Now this is where people get confused. Okay. So they showed you how to make a version if you want to go make it in your basement tomorrow. Well, since then, Al-Qaeda has made an invisible bomb inside of a vest in a laboratory. So you have TSA telling people, oh, we tested the homemade bomb in the video and we're fine. The airports are safe. They don't have their hands on the laboratory.
On that technology, of course.
Suicide vest. They're being dishonest. Not only are they being dishonest, they first said the vests don't exist. Then they've kind of been like, well, no, we tested the bomb in them, which, as I just pointed out to you, it's not true. That you can't say I tested a homemade bomb and it's equal to something created in the laboratory, right?
Correct.
And they pushed back on like the federal air marshals and said, nope, the bomb's good. The magnetometers are fine. And a lot of these marshals, as you can imagine, got pushed to the inauguration. And we got a ton of contact from them, like very concerned, like, just give us what you have, explain it to us. We'll tell everybody on the ground. Think of this. The guys on the ground are collecting information to share among each other to protect the inauguration because government agencies are lying about this. So it's super frustrating. So I really just wish people would be honest and be like, hey, we don't have our hands on the vest. We have to go by what Al-Qaeda is saying until we get our hands on the vest. And we need to increase security from what Al-Qaeda says the vest does.
Yeah,
I don't think that should be that difficult, but the
No.
government's fighting it.
Wow.
Is it just ignorance that they just believe that it's not going to happen on our soil again? I mean, is that what we're dealing with here? I mean,
yeah, it's arrogance, not ignorance. Arrogance.
That makes sense.
If I didn't collect it and I don't know about it, like this isn't getting by me, right? I'm like the top of my game. Well, you're not.
Is there anybody in the current administration listening that we know?
So I know,
new administration.
I know the new incoming administration understands.
Not new yet.
Yeah, they're about to be. 52 hours.
Any minute. Yep.
I know that they are understanding the fact that, hey, the current administration was bamboozled by the Taliban, that we're probably missing a lot of intelligence in Afghanistan. I still don't think they understand the intelligence is actually tainted. So if they go in and get classified briefings, they're getting Taliban provided information about what's happening. So there's still some breaks, which I think they want to know and hear, right? So there's a lot to teach them. But as you can imagine, we have a million other issues going on. The border, the economy, et cetera. And then maybe even a reorg of what I told you is this mess up of our intelligence community. So there's so much noise. I do get worried that they won't be focused on this. And I know there's other threats. China's a huge threat, right? But that's not going to lead to thousands of dead Americans this year, right? So so we're in this tough situation, right? We didn't really prioritize threats properly. And now they have to quickly learn how to do that and do it right.
Yeah.
So who, in your opinion, I know we talked about bin Laden's sons, right? Or we hear about bin Laden's sons. In your opinion, professional opinion, who is the most feared that we should be out there? I mean, who are the groups that, okay, guys, that we really need to focus on this? Is it bin Laden's? Are they really trying to get everybody together to create one major boom in the United States?
Yeah, so I think you have to focus for that piece on Hamza bin Laden and Abdullah bin Laden. They're both sons of Osama. People get confused because Osama also has a brother named Abdullah, and people don't understand there's also a son. So those are the two who are really bringing people together. Now, if you're talking about the two guys who are going to make stuff go boom, right? Like mastermind level in Al-Qaeda, you need to take out Saif al-Adil. He's pretty much a military commander. And you need to take out Hamza al-Ghamdi. And he's basically running this Islamic Army initiative. And that's the one of all the groups coming together. So those are the two operational guys. Then ISIS still matters, right? The interesting thing is, though, everybody's focused on the head of ISIS Khorasan province. His name is Sana'ullah Ghaffari. We need to take him out for Abbey Gate. But the most important target in ISIS today is Gulmurad Khalimov. The U.S. government is like not even being honest that he's alive, and he's ISIS's minister of war, and he's the one planning against us. So he's the other target that needs to be on the target deck day one when we restart operations in Afghanistan. And I don't think we should go on the ground in Afghanistan, but we need to be bombing these camps. We need to be bombing these senior leaders. And there's commander control locations for these attacks, right?
Yes.
Like this isn't complicated. Like we, for 4 years, have ignored it and let this problem fester. And now it is in our backyard.
Yeah. So I was going to ask that.
So you made a point. 4 years we've neglected.
Okay. Yes, not and also the question I was going to ask was do we know their locations? Do we know where they're at? And you basically said the camps, and at least if they're not at that location, it sends the message, right? That we know they're in existence, we acknowledge their existence, and we're not here to F around with them, I mean, is that not what we should be doing at this point? Not worrying about, a TikTok ban, but maybe doing, something a little more proactive at this point. And do you think it will take place? Do you think?
Yeah, well, I feel like we have to be proactive against this threat, or we're going to have thousands of dead Americans, right? It's one or the other. Either you go against these targets and hopefully push off the attack or thwart it, right? Like maybe if you took out Saif al-Adil. But then could you imagine if you wait And then you have, now this is all knee-jerk reaction after the attack,
Correct.
right? It's kind of like how we've dealt with Iran this whole time, right? It's like we've never really dealt with it, and it's just become a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger problem. And now even they're like, oh, we're gonna put the sanctions back on. No, we don't need sanctions and their nuclear program. That's the only argument. It's the only thing that gives them power, right?
Yeah,
and
correct.
it's like we're just not dealing with the issue. So even when they talk about China, yeah, this TikTok stuff is foolishness. Like I think it's a collection app, yes, but I care more about China owning portions of our port. You know, China owns telecommunication system.
Exactly.
I remember it was down what near Fort Bragg or whatever.
Yes, correct.
And then he went out in his backyard and like he ended up shooting that guy. Well, that company I heard was owned by the Chinese. And it was like what, a Chechen in his yard. I mean, what the heck? And nobody's really doing stuff about this stuff happening on U.S. soil and being honest about it, right? We really need to like get back into protecting our nation.
We do. And what do you think the influence they have over the citizens here? We'll take a look at like the New Orleans attack, right? The on New Year's Eve and all that, and the influence that person, ISIS, had on that person. Whether any of this is true, and I tend to not believe what I'm hearing, for the most part, because I don't believe I'm hearing the truth, from media or whatever. But is that also? It's not just people that are there that have snuck in, but the influence they're having on current American citizens and military American citizens. What kind of concern should that be for us at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple angles to this. If we just talk about the terrorist piece, right? There's been a ton of indoctrination in this country since the Hamas attacks in Israel. Like, at a level I've never seen that we should be very concerned about. Now, there's also, though, like China, for example, think about it. If you're a single man and you come to the United States from China, your family's still there. It's a system connected to the government, right? So even though you got here, you still have to obey your parents who obey the government, right? So there are a lot of people in this country too who are loyal to their own countries or their own causes, right? And because we've done really bad job vetting, we've let these people in. There's people loyal to their cartels. There's criminal networks. Like they do not want to be here to be Americans, right? And I think anyone complaining about mass deportations has no clue who these 14 million are that we let in.
Agreed.
And got their head in the sand.
100% agree with that. Jim.
We knew this was going to have some. We want people to be awake. We want people to be, because 9/11 happened. But it started planning in the one administration and happened in another. Yeah. Okay. In 2000 to 2001, correct? So now what worries me, what has been planned in these last 4 years to what could happen now? And I don't care. I don't want to sit here and blame, oh my God, because we know what the mainstream media and all the left is going to do. They're going to blame Trump, not paying attention, see what happens. People hate us, everything else. They're not going to pay attention to when it was planned. At this time, I don't care. How confident are you in the incoming administration that they're going to be able to say, okay, we got to concentrate on what's here, what could happen. We got to get this to prevent a 9/11 from happening, because in my opinion, if something like 9/11 happens, it's going to be twice as bad in a different cities, not just New York. It's going to be, and not with planes. Okay. So what is your opinion on that?
Sure. I do want to go on your first part, the planning, because that is interesting, right? The two biggest terrorist incidences that happened in the last few years are the Syrian blitzkrieg, right? That just happened in November. They started planning that in November 2021, okay? And then the Hamas attacks, which they started planning in March 2022, right? So when you look at the time frames, right, this is all lining up. Now, the one issue that I really feel to deal with the threats here is that I think FBI has spent a lot of years working in entrapment operations, and now they've wasted these years on the January 6th investigation. I'm not sure they have the background anymore to really be hunting terrorists in this country. So I don't know what that looks like. I'm not saying we make other organizations. I'm not saying we give CIA authorities in this country. But remember, we have had people overseas for 20 years. We have plenty of experts in this country who can deal with this, and we need to find a way to utilize them because our current system is not working, right?
Yes.
I know it's not the best way to say it, but we need to harness the talent in a way that's not being done. And I don't know if that becomes a new branch in the FBI and they bring in different talent, different trade crafts, but this has to be addressed immediately.
But
we have counterterrorism units, right? Still, I mean, like right now, there's a counterterrorism unit. Who is that? Who's running that? And what does that look like? And will it look different under, say, I don't know, a Kash Patel's leadership in the FBI or something, you know, or somebody, John Radcliffe or anybody? I mean, how does this change? And can it change quick enough to make a difference?
So FBI's counterterrorism, it's like division or department. So D is based in Washington, D.C. Well, just to let you know, I passed them specifics on these vests for airlines a bit ago, and they still haven't been released, right? So there's an internal problem. Even when you put Kash Patel on the top, he's got to now deal with layers of internal problems.
Correct.
Is he going to focus on Sarah sent a memo on the vest, right?
I hope so.
He won't, but I'm just saying, I'm not the only one with complaints. People have been sending tips to the FBI for 4 years on terrorists. It wasn't a priority. It fell to the side because they had focused on domestic terrorism, right? There is stuff sitting in black holes all over our government that, you know, you got to reharness, bring back and be like, what tips did we even have? Like, we have a lot of this information if someone pieces it all together.
So am I wrong to think that maybe the CIA needs to have a little bit more power in the United States? Because you guys know it all. You guys know what's going on over there. The FBI does not. They know what you tell them. So I know we got to be careful, right? Because we got to be careful how we have this stuff. But I certainly would like to have a little bit more power from the CIA in the United States in terms of, this is what we got to do. This is who they are. This is where they're at. Let's get them. Am I wrong to think that? I mean,
I'd say that 5 years ago and more in liaison capacities. I also still think CIA belongs overseas. But since this whole relationship with the Taliban, I think the CIA needs to go back to their basics, have a whole counterintelligence review of what they've collected from Afghanistan in the last few years, because they have not collected on this attack, right? And so they are not our saving grace at this point. They're part of the problem. So we have problems across multiple agencies on this, unfortunately. And it's a tough problem. I can't tell you administration needs to do X, Y, and Z and they can solve it, but they need to get on top of what has all occurred in the last 4 years at the border with the failures of intelligence collection, completely stopping intelligence collection, whatever dealings we've made with Iran, whatever we've done to counter Russia to then work with different extremist groups. Like, there is a lot of problems we have created for ourselves.
When you say that, you know, nobody's looking at my memo, you know, Sarah says there's, you know, suicide vests. I mean, honestly, there's nobody that's contacted. Like, you're getting no traction on any of this information at this point.
Well, for that piece, I needed to put it out, as you can imagine, within those channels. And it's just kind of stuck, right? Because there's different levels. Obviously, I've told the public about it, right? But as you can imagine, there becomes more minute levels that you just can't say publicly. But you need it to protect the public, right? And that's the problem we're having. And I'm not the only one providing stuff to the government and it not going anywhere. I'm just saying this is a systematic problem.
In addition to potentially new suicide vests, what do you have any intel or thought, at least thought, on how coordinated attacks might look and what they might do in addition to that or besides that?
Yeah, I mean, I know the pieces, when they say coordinated, they are meaning multiple city. I know another thing they focused on is they've had a lot of thwarted attacks. Some were because they made the bomb wrong. That's why they're like, we'll make the suicide vest for you. Another piece was a lot of them kind of ended up being thwarted because the operative wasn't that squared away. He leaked something. He said something to a family member. He said something on the phone. So they actually spent a lot of time talking about like cover and covert operations with the operative, more time than usual, like working as teams, small teams, though, 5 or 7 man. The other thing is when you're in these small teams, they didn't learn each other's names. So if the 3 of us get like pulled into secondary,
Yeah.
I can give the fake name we went to a camp, and
Yeah.
I can even be honest where I went to the camp. I know nothing else. They don't even learn their targets till the last minute. So they got rid of all those kind of hiccups where we were able to catch things along the way. And that's what I'm very concerned about.
Wow. Wow. And when you're talking about multiple cities, I'm not so sure we're talking about an LA or a, Dallas, or I feel it's going to be smaller. That's just my thought, maybe smaller, like something that happened in a New Orleans. Not that that's a small city, but, kind of off the radar, not your big coastal city, not Washington, D.C., New York City, that kind of thing. I feel it's going to be just spread out. Billings, Montana. I don't know. I feel it's going to be a lot of small attacks that make a point, make a serious point, and it's going to be at the cost of our lives.
And it won't take many to disrupt.
It won't take many to disrupt. That's the point.
And one of the pieces that their focus is on, they want to take the battle to our communities, right? We need to view it that way. But they don't even look at it as the battle to just everyday Americans. When they're talking about the communities, they're also talking about the communities of that sent soldiers, right? Like they want to, part of the plan is, hey, we want to get American soldiers back for being on our lands, be it Iraq, Afghanistan, and we want them to feel this pain where they feel safe and where their home is, and so their home doesn't feel safe.
So like the Fort Braggs or anything.
Mentality. Yeah, like I'm not entirely sure that they're going to attack the base, but they want these people now to not feel safe in their own communities, right?
Yes.
Like that is a goal. And so it's interesting what they mean by how they're going to deliver on that.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, that's extremely interesting and frightening.
So, how and I know I'm getting close on time here. Do you think the terrorist attacks, or excuse me, the terrorists coming into this country that are here, we know they're here, right? We know they are. Which border, or maybe both, are they coming across? Because I'm still concerned about the northern border. I just don't think we're paying enough attention about that border. And we're, all the attention's on the southern border. Do we know what's going on at the northern border?
Yeah, there's multiple things to explain, and I'll keep it super simple. So Al-Qaeda has its homeland attack. It had its operatives. It got them in how they can. It preferred legal because it's picking people with clean records. So we have to remember there is a legal immigration problem. And
there is. Yep.
Now, there was this whole push. I want to say it was around the Hamas attacks, just right after. And it was like, U.S. is going to close the border because of what happened in Israel, move people in. And this is not the Al-Qaeda homeland attack. This was just Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Haqqani network, Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, the Kashmiri terrorist groups, etc. So at that time, they said, go, 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 all these terrorist groups. And so they came in southern border, northern border, any way they could get in. So the really interesting part is we have no concept of how many came in that push, because it was like, just get in the United States while you can, and in the future you'll be utilized in some way. So that's not even Al-Qaeda's homeland attack. That was pour in while you can. And remember, that wasn't just terrorists that did it. Multiple criminal organizations did, like hotels, etc. Like, go in now.
Now's the time.
And that's why, so those mass influxes are very concerning.
Wow. Okay.
Uh-oh. I probably froze. Keep going.
Nope. You're good. You didn't freeze.
You're good.
Well, now we did.
You go.
So,
I froze, didn't I?
Yeah. It's, so this is great. Yeah, you're back. Yeah. This is great information. We need more. And I think it's, in all honesty, I know there's people out there, it's the inauguration. A lot of people are watching what's going on right now. But Dale and I felt this was the perfect opportunity to bring you on from going from one administration to the next. And I'm not even going to discuss how terrible the other administration was. I don't even want to go into it. But I think this is perfect timing, because now this is what the new administration, what you and your fellow CIA operative are telling the Americans, this is what you got to watch out for. And you know what? If FBI is listening, which I don't know if they are, maybe look at Sarah's vest thing. Maybe look at it.
Maybe hit read.
Maybe you should go to the top. I'm thinking top of the list. I don't know.
I am too. I think they're listening because obviously I'm freezing up for some reason. I don't know. Somebody's listening somewhere. What, Sarah, in shortness of time, and we thank you for coming on. But what can you end with here? What do we need to do? What steps can we take? As I'm sitting here in my hometown, I live in a military town. What can we do to protect ourselves and or watch out for signs of maybe something? And hopefully somebody listens to when you tell them. What can we do?
Well, your last part is the simplest, right? It's this whole see something, say something. We really stopped kind of doing it because, it's not my business. People got weird about profiling, those type of things, right? We need to get back to that. Another problem we have at the community level is local law enforcement always thinks it's being handled by someone else, right? Oh, FBI's got that, the feds got that. That isn't happening. You need to kind of get your own capabilities going because these threats are now in your community, right?
Yes.
We let them in, they're in your backyard. And the last piece, when you're just talking about yourself, I mean, we always should work on the tools in our toolkits. One of the things we're pushing people is, just go to a Stop the Bleed, get some sort of first aid training, like be prepared if something happens because it's going to take time for first responders to get to.
It is.
And that's part of Al-Qaeda's plot. And I don't know what they're planning to do, but I'm just letting you know they're using phrases like no response. That's very concerning.
That is concerning.
You get no response. But just instead of being afraid of it, prepare for it. And then you're going to just be more resilient. It's not even going to help matter. Let's say we do a bunch of strikes in Afghanistan, attack gets pushed off. Well, you're prepared for the next emergency, the next crisis. I mean, look what unfortunately happened in the Carolinas, right? Like, it's just, you need to strengthen your base, which is your home and the tools you have, and prepare in that way.
And there was one quick thing I want to ask real quick, because there was a comment made from a listener. Good question. What about the gotaways? I mean, are you, here's what it is. And what about the gotaways? Are you concerned about them? And are there, how many, do we know how many are? I mean, do we even have an idea?
So it's really interesting. A lot of people focus on the gotaways, but you have to remember a lot of these terrorists, even if they registered and I don't know, in the app or at the border, they have a fake document, right? So gotaways are just people you never registered at all that came over the border. But a lot of people you registered, you don't have the right nationality, birthday, name. You can't do a background check on them anyway. So it's a lot bigger than the gotaways, but it's the same exact problem, right? So the gotaways, they say is, I don't know, maybe like 10% of the total number. But now what percentage of that number do we even know who the person is, right?
Okay,
so it's all the same problem. I wouldn't just focus on one or the other. We don't know who we let in, and that's the problem.
That's scary.
That's the problem. Wow, scary indeed. I knew this would be extremely informative and extremely eye-opening because we know there's planned attacks. We know it's going to happen. We've known for a while now. We just don't know how and what it's going to look like exactly.
And I'm never leaving the house.
He's going to punch. He's hunkering down in his basement. Leave. Get out.
My son, we give him a hard time because he watches all these other podcasts except ours. Anyway, but he's in law enforcement, and he sends me this text. Okay. And it's just a month ago, and Dale knows about it. And he goes, I just saw this podcast. You have got to have this individual. Have you heard of Sarah Adams? And he's talking about all that stuff. And I just replied back,
have we heard of her?
We are going to have her on the show on the 20th of January. And he goes, oh, well, maybe I'll listen. So it's like, so you've got a fan. My son is a big fan of yours. He watches you anytime you're on something, he watches you. But it's funny because, we already scheduled this interview with you, and then he's talking about this, and it's like, oh, so maybe he'll start watching us. I don't know.
I'm bringing families together.
Look at you uniting families.
Everybody tells me their husband's a fan, so I kind of like the son. I feel like that's a little younger generation, but
that is a little younger. You're right. It's creepier when I'm like, I'm a huge fan.
I said, he's in law enforcement, so he watches a lot of these things. And but I want to thank you for all you do. And all your fellows. I know you're not the only one, thank God, but thank you for we always talk about the special forces, You know, we can sleep better at night because of them. But you know, they carry out the missions because of what people like you do. And so I thank you for your service,
for
and
sure.
Keep up the great work.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks for
absolutely,
having me.
Sarah. Yeah, no, thank you for being here as well, and come back. I hopefully when you come back, we're not talking about a recent terrorist attack, but maybe ones that are being thwarted, and that's really going to be the most important part. Keep preaching it, keep yelling it, because we need more people like you out there doing it.
Yeah.
So
God
again,
bless.
thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you being here, and let's go enjoy the inauguration now.
Yep. Happy Inauguration Day.
Happy Mega Day. See ya. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Jim, it's exactly what I thought.
Yep.
You know,
well, actually a little more detail, which is even better.
Sorry,
I
meant to put that up there, Buckeye, and
Yeah.
get to your comments, of course. And this one is this Buckeye one is absolutely correct. That's it, Dale. Your shitty internet is the FBI's fault.
You know, I never thought of that. See, that's where she's always thinking, because now it gives us another avenue.
Yeah, she is always thinking that. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. I think that's the first. I don't recognize who M's dad is.
Yeah, M's dad. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, but thank you for being here. We appreciate you listening.
A lot of great comments that you made, and you did make a good point about. I wanted to be more specific about my CIA, because M's dad made a comment that let's not give the CIA more power in the States. I guess I needed to say differently, because I just don't, we hear all the, I'm not paying attention to the movies, but we always hear different comments that these FBI doesn't listen to the CIA doesn't listen to the FBI. And it's like, these are two groups. You don't have to like each other, but please listen to each other. This is how it's protecting us. And Grit Gear, I wanted to ask her, but I didn't. So because I didn't want to bring it up in case it didn't. But back. So was she at a Warrior Weekend?
Was she at a Warrior Shield?
Because we'll talk to her about coming.
We'll absolutely we'll talk to her about it. I don't know. I meant to thank too, because we met Sarah. Obviously, people know Sarah, from her podcast and everything, and Sean Ryan specifically. That's probably the largest podcast she's been on. But our good friend Wayne Black was the one who kind of introduced us to Sarah. And so we want to thank Wayne for that as well. I meant to do that on air and I didn't. At any rate, M's dad, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Great show, guys.
Awesome interview. Thanks, Crazy Southpaw.
Yep, great show, guys. Happy to be here. Glad you're here.
Glad to have you.
We have to do what? Stop it, will you? You're the one who does it always, but I don't know why I did. We got to listen. We got to hear from Grit Gear and Lock and Load. We didn't do that because Sarah was short on time and all that. We are today too as well. We've got live broadcasts on the network on Inauguration Day and all that going on. So we want to make sure we'll try to finish with time.
Live here. So
we are. When we come back, we will finish with that. But first, let's hear from Grit Gear and Lock and Load. Be right back.
Grit is defined as firmness of character, unyielding courage in the face of hardship or danger. At Grit Gear Apparel, we honor all military, police, fire, public service, and patriotic Americans, both men and women regardless of color, creed, or religion. Our brand represents the love and freedom for our country, the heroism of all our men and women, and the principles of what this wonderful country was built on. Our goal is to regenerate the sense of patriotism and to spark the American pride within us, to stand together in the toughest times and become victorious, to preserve all our freedoms, to honor our flag, and to respect the men and women who have fought and died for us to have these freedoms. Wear our brand with pride, with a sense of patriotism, and as a statement for the love of our country. Whether you're military, public official, or civilian, our brand is for you. Together we stand as Americans.
Do stand as Americans, and even more so today. I feel what a day, what a glorious day. We've been waiting for
Grit Gear Apparel
4 years for this day. GritGearApparel.com, LockandLoadCoffee.com, veteran supported, American operated, family owned and operated.
Coffee.
Great gear, great everything. Please go there and support them. Use coupon code 2GUYS. Please do not forget that, and get 10% off your order every time you order. 10% off. So please go support them if you would. Again, thank you to Sarah for being on. What an incredible person. she's so kind of mild mannered and kind of
Yeah.
like almost bubbly, right? Like she's just this cute little mild mannered, and man,
When we have people
mess
like
with her.
Wayne Black, JJ
Mhm.
Carroll, and now Sarah on that truly know what the issues they're talking about. We
Correct.
can sit here and talk about what we read in the paper or what we've read in books and what we've read. We can talk about that all day long.
Yep.
But it's having the people that have actually gone through it that can explain it. The Benghazi thing, very nicely put. Because
Yes.
I'll admit, I read a little bit of the DOD, the defense version of Benghazi.
Yep. Correct.
It was more of to me, it was, a cover thy butt. But anyway,
It was
I
a
wasn't-
fluff
I didn't
piece,
want-
cover your ass
Exactly.
piece.
So
it was.
but okay, I want to my lovely bride here made a point that all the ex-presidents and all the ex-first ladies are there except one.
Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama is not there. So
Michael
for all
is
you
probably
people out
getting
there that think
testosterone
she's
shots.
wonderful, really. And again, you and I talked about this. We could care less who shows up. Couldn't care less. I mean, fine. If you don't want to go, don't go. It just shows you who you are and how
You too,
small
Amstad. Thank you.
are.
Yeah, it's listen. Oh, look at that. Okay. Great hoodie.
Yep.
Great. That's what I'm saying.
I don't wear hoodies.
These are amazing.
I hear they're great.
Got one on now. Usually reserved for Fridays. Remember, everyone deployed, but it's
And
red.
Buckeye, we're
MAGA
glad
day.
you're enjoying those.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So Michael's probably getting testosterone shots or something. He probably couldn't make it, or I don't know,
But
hurt his balls playing basketball. Not
Before
sure.
we get into our top five, let's real quick just like what this day is, guys.
Yes.
I woke
Celebration.
up.
Mhm.
I woke up and I can't wait to see what happens. I truly cannot wait. I mean, after what we've gone through, what has happened, and then of course to wake up and find out that Fauci, Milley,
Yes,
and all the January 6 people have received pardons. Now, somebody needs to explain to me how you can receive a pardon when you haven't been convicted of anything.
Yeah,
but hey,
exactly.
I guess
Today, and Dragon, thank you. Today's the first day of the rest of our lives. #winning. You got that right, and I'm not sick of winning. That's for sure. 4 years we've been waiting. This is a vindication day. This is a glorious, glorious day for us, for true Americans, for true patriots out there. Boy, it's been a long time coming. And of course, Buckeye, you are welcome for the hoodies anytime. I'm glad you are enjoying them.
We are glad you're enjoying them. But it was you've done a lot. You've meant a lot. You mean a lot to the show, and we appreciate everything you do, as well as Aiken and all the other and everything.
Correct.
So we appreciate it. Like
we would too.
You received a gift from one of our watchers.
Mm-hmm. I
did.
did. That's right. Here it is. I want to say thank you. I had it right here to say it, but I got this. So what you don't see, look, man, it's just a glass, right? Nice little bourbon glass and all that. But inside there's etching, which you might be able to see in there, but probably not, of the state of Indiana and the state of Florida. And it says never too far to drink together. And that is from, you'll see him on here, Crazy Southpaw.
Crazy.
I can't thank you enough. When I saw it, I was absolutely floored. It meant the world, and I appreciate it. So thank you, Crazy Southpaw.
Yeah. And I've got one that basically says how great of a brother I have. So,
because I agree now. I agree. Out of the brothers,
now you agree.
He's my favorite.
Yeah.
But thank you, Crazy Southpaw.
Anyway,
that meant the world to me. So thank you. I appreciate it.
But again, before we get to top five, folks, just appreciate what's going on right now. Just appreciate what we're experiencing, appreciates what's going to happen, and just pray to God that the Republicans just get his appointments in there so we can get this started. Pete Hegseth has got to take over. He has got to get
immediately.
Cash Patel has got to get in there. Kristi Noem has
got to get in there. Pam Bondi, they all got to get in there. They have to get in there.
Stuff. No messing. Get in there. Get going. Doge, do what you got to do. Holman, today at noon. Start sending them back.
That could be a record number, like 200 executive orders going to be signed today. I cannot wait for each and every one of them. I can't wait for the views heads to explode out there with the liberals.
Is there.
What?
ICE is ready to go. So
yep, exactly. Folks. It's top 5 time. I know you've all been anxiously awaiting since we were off last week. And thank you for joining us again today on this special day. It's our top 5. What is today? Top 5. One of the hardest categories, I think.
Exactly. We needed to break it down.
And we took it from Buckeye's suggestion. Top 5 80s movies. Not a genre, not top 5 80s movies. So we're talking a decade of movies in what was a great decade of movies. And trying to narrow that to a top 5, which was relatively impossible, but we're going to do it. And I'm going to let Jim go first because it's Monday and he goes first. No more weeks off. Well, note real quick.
Yeah.
The show will not be
I'll
off,
be here.
but and Rich will be filling in for me because I am heading to Ohio tomorrow, and I will be gone Wednesday and Monday of next week. But I will be back next Wednesday. But Jim will be here, and Jim and Rich has been gracious enough to fill in for me. So the show must go on, and they're going to take care of it. But wanted to say that real quick. But Jim, your top 5 80s movies, and I can't wait because
we always have some disagreements, if you will.
Well, maybe.
But my first slide here is movies that were close. Right.
You can't be doing a
Top
you
Gun,
can't
Caddyshack,
without me doing one.
The Princess Bride, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, The Goonies, and Field of Dreams. These are all now.
Field
granted,
of Dreams
folks,
was hard not for me to put in.
There are a lot of movies that could have made this, right? So I just try to go. These are the movies that, to me, when it's on, I watch it, right? And that's what you got. That's what my take is on my top 5 80s movies, is that I always have to watch them. So number 5, Stripes.
No doubt.
Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, and John Candy. I mean, come on.
No doubt.
I mean, I dare you watching that movie without.
There's no way you can't.
There's no way.
Not watch that. That is a great movie.
That's how we were introduced.
Does it rank above Caddyshack for me? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
It's there, but there she was just walking down the street. I never heard that song until this movie.
Okay,
brilliant. All right, so number 4, Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. So now you're in the comedy genre.
Put any Mel Brooks movie in here.
That's what I'm saying.
Honestly.
To me, okay. All right. Can I disagree on something? Spaceballs is phenomenal, but you got to remember, we're talking about in the 80s. But then you don't think there was, well, maybe you have them on here. You don't think there's better Mel Brooks 80s movies than that one?
Oh, this is my favorite.
Okay,
Mel
this
Brooks.
is yours.
Okay.
So that's good. That's fine. Okay.
So, okay, here we go. Number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I know. So you're not wrong.
This started everything for me. I mean, this was fantastic. This was great.
This started your love affair with
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Okay. So number 2,
Buckeye's got a list. We'll do it in between ours.
The Last Crusade.
Yeah, it sure started it for you. You are infatuated.
Indiana. Well, I'm sorry. Temple of Doom wasn't the best.
It was
the ones
not.
after it weren't great.
Yeah.
But these two definitely, I watch them all the time. I just rewatch them over and over and over again. So okay, so here we go, folks. For those of you that know me, this is not a problem because it is also my number 1 Christmas movie.
No, it is not a Christmas movie. Die Hard.
How can you not?
Die Hard was great.
I mean, this Bonnie Bedelia. I started falling in love with her during this movie. I mean, she was fantastic. This was the whole premise of this movie. I mean, Bruce Willis, his personality, it comes in. Like we talk about that all the time. The great actors are the ones
by far his best movie. But
I mean, put in their humor, their wit, if you will. And this started it off for me. I mean, Die Hard was by far and away the best. And
the scene at the top, the picture you have there of Hans falling off the Okay, so that look on his face, that's priceless, because obviously he's not falling down a building, he's dropping onto him, but they didn't tell him when they were going to release it. So it surprised them, and they did that on purpose so they can get the actual reaction of it. There's a lot of good behind the scenes stuff about this movie. It's a great movie. It happens around Christmas, but it's not a Christmas movie. Anyways, so it is your number 1. Now take yours down, because I want to play a couple comments. I got them. I got the comments.
Okay.
I got it. You do mine and I'll do yours. So this is Buckeyes.
Yep.
Predator, Bloodsport, Rocky IV, Back to the Future, and Major League. No, I mean, you can't.
Sport was awesome. Jean-Claude Van Damme. You could put any of his movies in there, to be honest.
I know, but you know, when you're talking about like, you know, 5, that's a great list. Thank you, Buckeye, for sharing it. This one obviously goes to your Spaceballs. I see your Schwartz is bigger than mine.
Well, and then we got this one from Dragon Brigade. That's
right.
the fact.
That's the fact, Jack. Yeah, I mean, absolutely great. It was a great list, Jim.
And Larry always has to do this.
Porky's was funny.
Was very.
That had to come out like 1980, didn't it?
Yeah, he kind of got in trouble because he took me to that movie and I was underage. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the Die Hard as a Christmas movie. No, we won't.
No, because there's no debate.
A long story between me and Jim.
There is no debate.
It is not a Christmas movie. There's the debate.
Outside.
So no, we are not. Okay, so mine. You ready? Here we go. Look at my cool background on this. Like in total, look at the font, you know, is that not good? It's like total, like, you know, graffiti.
There's some good movies on there too. Howard the Duck. Maybe not.
Howard the Duck. Yeah, not top 5. I don't think there's anything on here that would have been in my top 5. That is for sure. Trading Places, great movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The Burbs was phenomenal.
Yes.
Love The Burbs.
But here, number 5, Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You cannot deny the fact that to me was above Platoon. I liked Platoon. I really did. I like Full Metal Jacket way better.
Excellent. Yep.
So that released in 1987. Full Metal Jacket is number 5. Number 4, Airplane.
Oh, yeah.
Just made.
I love Airplane.
Airplane is great. Absolutely phenomenal movie. I mean, if you talk stupid slapstick, it was the king of it to me.
And I'm going to be honest with you, there's people out there that know me that wonder why that was not on my top 5 too. Because
probably right. Yeah, it's hard because it was a hard list. That's why it's 5. But number 3, Scarface.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an acquired taste. I get that. I mean, that's, you know, but that to me was just a phenomenal flick. Agree or not agree? Doesn't matter. It's mine. Number 2, Die Hard.
Yep.
So there you go.
Dale.
I knew yours would be on there, but number 2 for me was Die Hard. I think it's a phenomenal movie. It's one I can watch over. I kind of base it on that. Which movies can I watch over and over again and not get sick of? Die Hard is one of them. I don't watch it at Christmas time, but it's one of those movies that I can watch over. And number 1 on my list, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I'm sorry. I know it's a comedy. I know it's I cannot. I literally, if that movie was on every day, I'd watch it every single day.
It was a great movie. Definitely.
To me, it's comedy gold. To me, it's one of the best, well done writing, screenplays, filming, the whole works, the storyline. Those aren't pillows, you know. I mean, like the movie, there's so many lines in that movie. To me, it's just probably my favorite 80s movie ever made. So that's
great. 2 great actors. It was,
and it's a Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's the best Thanksgiving movie ever made. That I can tell you for sure.
Yeah, but so for all of you, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller Day Off, good movies, really were good 80s, and you know, the Molly Ringwald movies and the John Cusack movies.
Don't call me Shirley.
It just wasn't me. I liked them. And I know I have a friend that will hate me for not having the Breakfast Club on there because that's his all-time number 1. But it was a good movie. It was a good movie. It would never be number 1. But yeah, I don't watch it over and over and over again.
16 Candles could have fallen on that list.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
Well, it was no. See, that says any Molly Ringwald movie is good. I mean, it's just not my thing. And
correct.
But I will say,
Buckeye, mine was better though.
Well, it was good.
Buckeye, always so humble.
Yeah. It was good. I'll give. Yeah, it was.
It's a
good.
great list. It was hard. It was the hardest
Yeah,
hardest
it
list.
was.
I
'Cause
want
you
you
coulda
all
had
to
top
think.
50. I mean,
Yeah,
easily.
you could have it easily top 50. Now, Rich and Jim are going to have their top 5. We'll tell you what it is now so you can start thinking about yours.
Our
This is
top
gonna be
5. This was Rich's idea.
Rich's idea. So
The
for
most
Wednesday,
overrated. The top 5 most overrated movies.
that's going to be controversial.
And
Overrated movies.
Pretty much any Julia Roberts movie.
Steel Magnolias, you think is
and
overrated?
I got to tell you, there is one on Rich's
didn't
list. And I will not spoil it for him.
Mhm.
But there's probably going to make a few people upset when he sees it. But we'll just leave it.
I know one.
Leave it at
I know
that.
one of his already. So they're all great lists. Don't make movies like they don't.
No,
And that's why, Buckeye, thank you again for suggesting that list, because that was fun to do.
Yep.
Top 5 overrated movies.
No
Any
rules.
No rules. No
rules.
No rules. No, you could put Casablanca in there. Gone with the Wind. It doesn't. Top 5 overrated movies. No rules.
There are some movies that I hope are not anybody's list, and that would be
Mhm.
The Godfather. That should not be on your list.
Anybody says
Lord
that's
of the Rings
overrated.
should not be on your list.
Lord of the Rings could very well be.
Harry Potter should not be on
could be on
anybody's
my
list.
All of them. They're great movies.
And
All
no
could be
comment
they're
about my
overrated.
80s movie. They were all in the 80s.
I am shocked, for one, that you did not, it's like, well, it started filming in, 89, released in 90. I expected that completely out of you. So thank God.
And Spaceballs 2 is in the works, guys. Josh Gad is going to play. So I can't wait for it to come out. It will not be as good as 1.
Of course it
Dad,
won't be.
yes. Overrated all time.
All time.
It just
So at all
anything you
time.
can
I
come
mean, you
up
could be like Wizard of Oz was an overrated movie. You could whatever
Larry,
you want.
Musicals can be on there because there
Any
will be a
musical.
musical on mine.
Yeah. Yeah. There is I know there's a lot of musicals to me that are overrated. That's for sure. Yeah, this was crazy Southpaw.
Well, I do like
musicals.
I have to admit, but
I gotta admit, there's a couple of musicals I like.
Are you gonna admit to everybody, or are you just gonna let it go?
Nope.
Thanks, Dale.
Okay, I'll say this before we end the show. Wicked was pretty good. Wicked was actually well made.
Thank you.
Okay. I will watch part 2. So yes, I will pull my tampon out and watch part 2. So it was actually well done. I thought.
Priceless.
I thought the music was pretty good in it.
It's not as good as the musical, but the movie was very good.
It was. So there's the difference between Wicked and Les Mis, right? Which is just the most disgustingly terrible, horrible musical I think ever made. One of 2 musicals ever made that is horrible. At least there was dialogue and acting in this movie. It wasn't singing every single word. I didn't care that Russell Crowe was singing while he was taking a pee. It was just the most ridiculous movie I've ever seen. So, listen,
things here.
I
had to catch mine in many years ago.
I'm not, listen, I manned up afterwards, and I stood up and I kicked the dog, and I'm the boss of this house. Where's my dinner, woman? Yeah, Jim knows how that works.
Yeah, that would work as well as I would.
So yeah, little man card kind of show.
It has, but
it has for 15
actually they actually have put Josh Gad in it now, so they actually have actors that are going to be in it. So we're hoping.
Dale, that's what I get from him. Dale, that's what I get most of the time when I talk to people. Folks, listen,
I am not.
Fine.
There are some musicals that I really enjoy, and it's the music. It's based on the music and everything.
Greatest Showman.
For some reason,
music.
Wicked has just the music, especially with the original cast.
To me, it's the story
and everything. Just
because
does something. And
I didn't see the play. I'm not one of those weirdos who read the book.
It's not a play.
I'm never going to do that. Last time I watched Wizard of Oz, I was 6.
It's not a play.
Wicked was a play.
It's a musical.
What? See, so man card people, really? There's a difference? Okay. So anyway, so
at least you didn't pick Christy Nome, but at least you
went out and shot it afterwards. It's just
you
what we
didn't
do.
shoot it.
Listen, so I didn't see any of that bull crap beforehand. So I didn't know the beginning story of how they became who they became, which I thought was
that's the whole point. For those of you who don't know, Wicked is the pre
Wizard of Oz
to Wizard of Oz. So.
I can't talk about this anymore, Jim. My ovaries are hurting. I can't. So I gotta stop.
Hey, you know what? I am man enough to admit that I like stuff like that. I'm man enough.
I don't think that's man enough. I think it's just. Anyways, folks, listen.
Enjoy the day.
Enjoy the day. Celebrate for what the day is. It is absolutely an amazing day. Go Buckeyes. Beat the freaking Irish.
Yeah.
Please do. I mean, to cap the day off at the end that would be the icing on the cake. It's a great day to be an American.
It's pretty awesome when the two losses that Indiana football had this year, the two teams are playing in the championship.
Is there any way we can talk about great teams without bringing Indiana in?
Indiana is ranked 3rd in the country now.
Yeah, this is what happens when you take a week off. I'm shade you. I mean, what the hell? Thought we were friends.
First of all, Larry, you spelled it wrong.
Yeah. So Wicked is a prequel to a dream. Yeah, kind of. I don't know. Was Wizard of Oz? Yeah, I guess it was a dream. Go Bucks. You got that right. And then Aiken, thank you, sir. Great show today, guys. Glad to be back. Absolutely. Folks, enjoy the day. Enjoy what it's all about.
Yeah.
Celebrate our patriotism. We have been vindicated. We will rise from the ashes like the phoenix. I'm telling you, we will take care of this. And thank you to Sarah Adams again for coming on.
12, ICE is going to start getting to work.
So we're getting there. We're going to let you all go, finish watching the swearing in, watch the events, watch the History Patriots. Per Network will be broadcasting, so tune in there to watch all of that. Eddie is there front row at the inauguration. That's awesome for him. So we're so proud of him for getting there and doing that. And folks, we thank you all. Jim, I'll see you in a week. Yep. He'll be back Wednesday with Rich. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, Jimmy.
See you Thursday.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you, man. Talk to you soon. Bye.